It's estimated that 1 in every 6 people alive in the world today work in some part of the global fashion industry, making it the most labor-dependent industry on Earth. Most of this work is done by people, like Shima, who have no voice in the larger supply chain. But to fully understand the impact that fashion is having on our world, we have to go back to where it all begins.
My grandparents settled out here in the 20s. And so this is a part of my heritage. People ask why I'm an organic cotton farmer. It's because I don't know any better. My granddaddy was an old German farmer that felt like we should respect the land, we're stewards of the land, and respect the life that's in the land. You're actually sitting in the high plains of Texas, and there's 3.6 million acres of cotton grown in this region. We're literally the biggest cotton patch in the world. In just the past 10 years, 80% of that is now GMO, genetically modified cotton. Most of it is Roundup ready, meaning that instead of the farmers spot spraying weeds occasionally in their field or hiring laborers to walk the field and eliminate the weeds, now they're spraying whole fields.
Cotton produces the fiber that's responsible for most of the clothing worn by the world today. And as our appetite for fashion grows, the cotton plant itself is being re-engineered to keep up.
There's been this big drive towards the industrialization of agriculture, the intensification of agriculture. So instead of the old forms of farming, which were very much in tune with nature, they were linked to the cycles of the natural year and the seasons, what you see now is an intensification where the land is almost reconsidered as if it was a factory.
What you've created is this general practice of we treat millions of acres the same. We put a dose of chemical on it all, and that's when you get these big ecological effects that nobody has a grasp of what's really happening. Nature tends to heal itself in small pockets, but when you get this big, broad approach, we really don't know what's going on.
For us, it's not reducing the amount of pesticides and chemicals that are going on the cotton. That's one of the big sales. It reduces that. Not in our area where we are spraying millions and millions of acres and dollars of Roundup across the entire South Plains. What kind of impact is that having on our soil with residuals that are left at the microbacterial level? What kind of impact is that having on the people in our communities? Where's the cost on that?
Monsanto is proud to be the industry leader in agricultural innovation because of what these agricultural advancements can do to help you double yields for the future needs of the world. We're dedicated to the future of agriculture and providing farmers with innovations that help them produce more and conserve more while improving the lives of people around the world. Together, we can face the challenges of the next generation and beyond.
After the wars, where all these redundant factories that made war chemicals, explosives, were lying around, the Western countries thought that it would be a good idea to market them to the third world. After all, the same industry that makes explosives makes nitrogen fertilizers. And they started to push nitrogen fertilizers from the 50s onwards, after we became independent. But the nitrogen fertilizers don't do very well with native crops. There's a problem of lodging. So the whole system then organized itself to redesign the plant in order to take on more chemicals. Bt cotton is a cotton in which a gene has been added from a bacteria to produce a toxin. But the Bt cotton, which is supposed to control a pest, has been offered because it's a way for companies to own the seed.
By patenting these genetically modified plants, Monsanto has become the largest seed and chemical corporation in history. I wanted to speak with someone who had worked with the company, and I got word that a former managing director for India was willing to talk.
One of my close friends who was in the research division working on these modified crops, he came to my hotel for a drink. We were sitting and having a drink, and after a few drinks, he told me, "Hey, Jack, we're going to change the type of business you're doing in India." I said, "What do you mean?" "We are going to get into seeds business. And we are going to make the seed business on all crops so that we have the monopoly on seeds. And every farmer has to come to us to buy seeds every time." That rang a bell in my mind. If a poor farmer is to go to Monsanto to buy seeds every time, and such expensive seeds, at that time there's no idea of BT at all for me. Genetically modified seed was not in my mind. Even seed monopoly is something very bad.
So farmers get into debt when they get the seed because of the high cost, 17,000% more. They get into deeper debt because it doesn't deliver on the promise of controlling pests, so they have to buy more pesticides. The tragedy with chemicals, whether it's fertilizers or pesticides, is that they are what has been called ecological narcotics. The more you use them, the more you need to use them. For a while, the yield of the single commodity climbs and then it starts to decline because you have contaminated the soil.
Most of India's cotton is grown in the Punjab region, which has quickly become the largest user of pesticides in India. Dr. Pritpal Singh has been studying the effects of these chemicals on human health, and his reports show a dramatic rise in the number of birth defects, cancers, and mental illness here in the region.
You can go in every village, you will see that hundreds of patients are suffering with cancers. 70 to 80 kids in every village will find them facing the severe mental retardation and physical handicap. Companies, fertilizer, pesticides, they are totally refusing the after effects of the pesticide and fertilizer. And this is the, you can say, classical symptoms of the toxicity. In one village, there is 60 mentally-retarded kids like this boy. So it will be very dangerous phenomena in the Punjab. And pupils, farmers, and labor, there is small farmers and maximum the labor means, so they can't afford now treatment. Ultimately, they have accept to the death of their kids, and they are waiting the death of their kids. Mother is waiting for the death of this boy.
Companies that make the GM seeds and make the chemicals are the same companies, and they're also the same companies that make the medicines which they are now patenting. So you get cancer, there are more profits. For them, it's a win, 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 win. As for nature and people, it's a lose, 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 lose. It's the day those agents of these companies come to the farmer and say, "You owe me this much, you haven't paid back, now your land is my land." That day the farmer will go into his field, drink a bottle of pesticide and end his life. And every widow I've talked to said, and the neighbors came and said they first found my husband lying in the field.
In the last 16 years, there have been more than 250,000 recorded farmer suicides in India. That's about one farmer every 30 minutes, and it's the largest recorded wave of suicides in history.
Yeah, when we were first in organic, I think there was only 2 or 3 of us at the time. We formed the Texas Organic Cotton Marketing Cooperative, and the deal was they'd grow it and I'd sell it. So started going to like Jacob Javits and having this whole deal, cotton plants and everything, and we've got organic cotton, and people would just look at us like we were absolutely crazy. Many times consumers become aware of organic milk or they have an allergy. And so, interestingly enough, cotton and what they put on their body, even though the skin's the largest organ on your body, isn't even on their radar screen because they're not getting the connection of, oh, I eat this organic apple, therefore I'm not directly ingesting pesticides or chemicals or whatever the case may be. But they don't get that direct connection with clothing. And so you have to start looking at in that bigger community scope, that it is about our air, it's about our world, it's about our planet, it's about our people. And so it is that awareness of, You may not feel that you're having the direct impact by buying this organic shirt, but the impact you're having is in the bigger picture in the world at large, and especially in the community where the cotton's grown.
As the hard freeze comes, as organic farmers, we wait for that freeze because that literally defoliates, takes the leaves off the plant so that when we harvest, the bolls open that are mature and it leaves the cotton here, and you can see it kind of comes out in sections. So this machine that's coming is called the cotton stripper, and it's called a cotton stripper because it literally comes along and strips, use kind of fingers, and it literally strips all of the bolls off of this plant. So when you look over there, you can see the harvest has been there and it's taken all the plants off.
I think one of the problems that we have in the current model is it's all about the profit. And it doesn't take into consideration this cost at what cost? The cost of polluting the water, the cost of labor, the cost of bars on the window that people die when a fire breaks out in the factory, the cost of farmers that don't have access to education and health care. And so we haven't really factored in what the true cost is.
Kanpur is situated along river Ganga, which is the holiest river, and it's also very important for 800 million Hindus, and also it serves as lifeline of North India. So this river is being polluted and killed by the leather factories of Kanpur.
With growing demand for materials like cheap leather, Kanpur is now the leather export capital of India. Every day here, more than 50 million liters of toxic wastewater pour out of the local tanneries. Heavy chemicals used to treat the leather, like chromium-6, flow into local farming and even drinking water. In places like Kanpur, far from the eyes of the world, major Western brands are able to source cheap materials while avoiding all accountability for the growing cost to human health and the environment.
People in that area are in the tight grip of tannery pollution. The local environment is contaminated, soil is contaminated, the only drinking water source, groundwater, is contaminated with chromium. Agricultural produce, even vegetables and salad items are produced there. People's health are affected. People have different kinds of dermal problems, skin rashes, boils, pustules, even numbness in the limbs. People have stomach ailments, maybe they have cancers also.
हमारी बेटी को जॉइंडिस नाम की बीमारी हुई है और ये प्रतिवर्ष यहाँ पे हमारे जो है इनको भी पिछले वर्ष हमारी वाइफ को भी हुआ था। इस पूरे इलाके में जितना भी हमेशा मतलब एक घर छोड़ के दूसरे घर में मतलब अक्सर जो है दर्जनों लोग जो है हर गांव में बीमार होते हैं जॉइंडिस से। वो उनका बहुत पैसा खर्च हो जाता है और ज़्यादातर लोग 90% लोग जो है ये समझ लीजिए कि खून की कमी एनेमिक रूप से जोड़ते हैं, क्योंकि जो क्रोमियम है वो सीधे लीवर पे अटैक करता है और जब लीवर कमज़ोर होता है
You can have the best of materials moving into the high-end fashion market in Milan or Paris or London, but there has been so much of work which has gone behind it and so much of chemicals has gone into it. The effluents have been discharged into so many rivers, but we are only looking at that point of time into the finished product. We need to step back and think about it.
Fashion today is the #2 most polluting industry on Earth. second only to the oil industry. The alarming thing is that not only is fashion using a huge amount of natural resources and creating staggering environmental impacts, these natural resources and this impact is often not even measured.
Because they've been so abundant, these resources, it's been assumed that they're going to be there forever. So I think business has not accounted for them because it's only since the 1950s that we've really had this industrial expansion at such a rate that we started to see exponential growth and exponential use of natural resources.
The first economy on which our lives rest is nature's economy. Nature has an economy. That economy is huge. It's not counted. Then we have people's economy, women working, weavers working, farmers growing. And that was made invisible through this construct, first in the Depression and then during the war years, of the number called the GDP, the gross domestic product, which measures only that which is traded and has become a commodity.
A lot of the resources that we use to make our clothing are not accounted for in the cost of producing those clothes. So when it has water that's used to produce clothing, land that's used to grow the fiber, chemicals that are used to dye, those things all are inputs, and as inputs they cost something, and they also give outputs. In some cases good outputs, the clothing themselves, jobs, but in other cases bad outputs like harmful chemicals or greenhouse gas emissions, and those things have costs as well.